Right, yeah, it's important. So let's go for the game at Easter Road, because that could be, in terms of the final European place. I mean, Aberdeen were there 2 games in hand, and if Neil Warnock comes in and can be as good as he was in his last job with Huddersfield, where he basically saved them for relegation. If he could do kind of similar things with Aberdeen, then you'd maybe fancy Aberdeen to rock up the table and get fourth, and then you're talking between Kilmarnock, St Mirren, Hibs, Dundee for that final space. But regardless, right now, St Mirren with that 3-0 victory at Easter Road, all goals coming in the first half, with Alex Gogic, a Greg Kiltie penalty, and Michael Mandron scoring, that they are now 6 points ahead of Hibs. Hibs do have a game in hand, but we talked about earlier, it looks like Hibs are inevitably heading for a change of manager, because things are just going from bad to worst under boring old Monty.
Oh, God. That guy, man, he fucking rubs me up the wrong way. There's just...
better or worse than Lee Johnson? Where we go here?
Oh, much worse. Lee Johnson, there was always a performance in the offing. You knew you were going to have a good day at some point with Lee Johnson. Even when he got sacked, he did have a brilliant result. He managed to get one in Lucerne and stuff like that. There was always... The problem with Johnson is there's never any consistency. That's his entire career. I mean, he's even got a nickname for it. And to get a nickname like that when you've got the amount of games under your belt as a manager, Johnson. Yeah, to get that when now he must have about 550 games under his belt. You must be streaky, because there's a huge body of evidence to do it. But Montgomery, as I said, I mean, when we done the YouTube only one with you last month, I was just saying that he doesn't give you anything to hang your hat on, man. He doesn't give you. He doesn't look like he's not inspiring. You don't get on board with anything like that. So you only get what you see on the park with Montgomery. There's no other side bit. And the more it goes on, that guy is fully excuses, man. Fully excuses. He looks like a rabbit caught headlights now, because I can see that there's panic in him. He doesn't really know what to say. So he just comes up with the same sort of cliched like excuses all the time. And like this time where we're going, he's been desperately trying to sign centre-halves all month. And he gets 2 in. And then at the end of this game, he's bemoaning the fact Hanlon and Rocky aren't there. He's actually, for fuck's sake, you said they were the problem. Like, you can't have it both ways. And like the choice of centre-halves as well, one of them's definitely his guy. I mean, Trantis, who had a terrible game, that's his guy. There's no way, that's not, Foley's not involved in that, nobody's involved in that. It's his guy by a mile coming into. So... And I said when I done the YouTube that I thought he might get hung out to dry, because I didn't think to be honest, I didn't think the Foley thing was going to get ratified in January. That was my feeling, and it did manage to get into the end. So they did manage to do a lot of business towards the end, and he got a lot of what he needed in terms of how the players are sold to you, in terms of like the gaps in the squad that was done. But again, Hibs, it was a lot of loans, and I think that does tell you a little bit. They're not letting him. To me, it sounds like he was sort of getting put on trial with sort of like, Foley's not the owner. Foley is obviously 25%, blah, blah, blah. But I think he's going to have a lot of say when you're putting in that amount of money. And I already have my theory about, I think he's going to have a huge say in the football side of things anyway. But in Montgomery, like, there's graphs on there for StatsBomb now where XG goes way down for Hibs and the XG of the opposition goes way up. I'm no stats guy, but it doesn't look great. And it's just, as I said, there's just nothing to go on. And it was funny, my mate was posting Neil Warnock videos of him going Raj in the dressing room, and Nick Montgomery's in all of them and I'm like, can't imagine him doing that. So it's like, you've been sort of brought up by Neil Warnock, but you feel like you're the polar fucking opposite of it. And just with zero personality, I don't know what it's like behind. So like I said, there's nothing for you to cling to apart from what you see on the pitch. And what you see on the pitch is absolutely fucking rotten. So, I mean, that was one of the worst performances ever from a Hibs team in the first half. It was shocking for so many players. I will talk a bit about St Mirren, because I didn't want this to go to it, but I don't think I would get many arguments with St Mirren fans if I go, you didn't have to do too much to absolutely dominate that game and win it. And I don't think many of them would argue. I think a lot of them were laughing at the standard of the Hibs team during it.
So what do you want to start with then? Do you want to start with praising St Mirren, or do you want to start with some of the big hitters from Hibs in terms of absolutely shocking performances?
Well, I mean, with St Mirren, like Boyd Muntz, I thought was really good. I think he's a player I quite like. I thought Gogic looked well up for it, as you would expect, but Gogic is having a really good season. You don't really, everyone's having, it's like every year you have to change what position you think he's best in. So one year you go, he's definitely a defensive midfielder. And then he sort of turns shit in there. So I think the key for Gogic is you learn there's a sell-by date on every position and try and get ahead of it and move him into the other position before he turns shit in it. Because at centre-half this season, he's been really good. In a back three, I think it really suits him because I think we spoke about this before. He's got decent passing ability for a defender. He's got terrible passing ability for a midfielder. So in a back three, it works really well. And Gogic is, I think, his speed's a little bit underrated. I think he's quite good. He can recover quite well, and he can cover ground. And obviously, he got his header, which was just all about him really wanting it more than a large amount of players in the Hibs box. And we'll come on to like how this. I mean, Sportsing did a decent job of it with Marcondes. But again, my argument would be like against Kilmarnock, why is Marcondes getting these key roles in defending set pieces when he's like a number 10 sort of free kick merchant? But
it looks a bit 5'8" as well.
Yeah. Why is he in the heart of the zones? If it looks zonal, he's the heart. But again, we'll come on to that. And Mandron, he's come on a lot, I think, as a player.
Yes.
Because I was always like, Ayunga, I always thought miles better player. And Mandron, I thought, was quite a smart one for St Mirren because he has similar attributes to Ayunga, which means that when one's not available, it means that you don't have to change up completely how you play, which I always think is important. I mean, you do want other options, but when you've got a key striker in a style the way Robinson plays, that style of striker is probably going to be needed. And with Mandron, he's got a lot. I mean, the goal he got was absolutely gifted from a corner. He's able to side foot a corner in at the back post on the ground, and it's not touched anyone on the way. But he was causing the centre halves plenty of bother. He was backing in. But St Mirren, really, all they had to do was put balls in the box. There's no other tactic. And this is what would really worry me for Montgomery is once the Scottish Cup goes, when he plays Inverness are watching. They don't have to be brilliant, and they're not brilliant. Inverness are a bang average championship team, but they'll be bang up for it. They'll be going out. They'll Duncan Ferguson watching these videos. You can only imagine the type of things he'll be saying to them about getting into Hibs' face and just constantly asking questions and putting balls in the box. And it's hard to think that they won't score at least two goals, because it is that basic to get your goals. You saw them with Kilmarnock. Again, you're not having to work hard to get that goal. You're just crossing the ball in. There's nothing else to it. And I mean, you saw the one that they scored, was it the Kilmarnock the other week, when it just the exact same guys side footing in at the back post, and everyone's just ball watching it. The goalie's not coming. So I don't want to criticise it, but I thought they were quite emotionally intelligent during the game as well. They didn't they knew to let Hibs have it. They let the crowd play off Hibs. They would stand off them at times. And rather than going in their face, let them give the ball away. Actually concentrate on trying to intercept it rather than try to go and win it, because you can see that their heads are gone, fans are going crazy. So let's just let them give us the ball, and then we'll have many more players to spring counterattacks. And because Hibs still had 60% of the ball, obviously. It was and if you look at the stats, it doesn't look like a game. And you look at the Y-Scout stats, it doesn't look like Hibs still putting the same amount of crosses, all this nonsense. But St Mirren are just able to do it 10 times more. And if I could now have the floor to talk about Hibs, I'd be more than happy to.
Ellie Johan, it's always a bit of a bummer when you're calling for something from the manager, saying like he needs to be playing here, he can't be playing him here, and then the manager eventually, obviously he's not listening to you, but he eventually goes with what you've been saying, and the player puts in an all-timer of a bad performance.
But then he played up front for about 30 seconds, and then he was moved out to the left. and Melida was put up front, and then later on in the half they swapped back. And at the start, like Johan was there, and you could see Johan, like he won a few headers early on in the game. This is what I was saying, and he won the ball, and he played a good pass inside. At this, like we're holding the ball up, and that was always my point with Johan, is that he does have those abilities that would make him a better shout than Martin Boyle in that centre forward role, because he's got other things that he can add, and I would stand by that. And also, there is also a body of evidence of Johan playing up front well. So it's not like this is the first time that it's happened. It happened last season, and he was very good in the role. But then he moved out to the left, but they looked like they didn't have a clue what they were doing in terms, like, I'll give you the shout, like when they first came on the pitch, every single player went to play on the left. Melida, Yuan, and Tavares all started to come over to the left. And then Tavares, I saw Tavares do the, oh, sorry, and then running over to the right, and Yuan went up front. So that gave me a little bit, I was like, oh no, that's not a good start. And then Yuan, when he was out on the left, by Christ, he just gave the ball away every time he'd done it. He'd done one where, and he does this sometimes, the ball came over, and I think we were 2-0 down at the point, and he just stood still with the ball, and you're like, yes, that's, like waiting for the guy to commit himself. And I get it, you're confident and you can do that. You're wanting him to do that because you can dart past them. You're 2-0 down though. The guy will just stand in front of you. He's not going to commit. He's no reason to. We could stand, that defender will happily let you have the ball for the next hour, and nobody will move a muscle. That's not happening anymore. That's gone. That they're going to overcommit at any point. And he was getting the ball, and then there was passes going to him where it looked like he'd get there, and then he'd just stop and let it go. He looked like a man that looked completely unhappy with his lot. Melida fell over the ball at one point when he was dribbling. He just sort of just fell over his feet, and he had a few decent touches during it. And Dylan Levitt, they're talking about you and having an all-timer stinker. Levitt's getting away with fucking murder with that, because again, like the 4-2, like it is probably morphing more into a 4-2-3-1 now than the 4-4-2 with the introduction of Marcondes. Because he's more naturally dropping in. The way Venti was actually playing this role, it didn't work at all. But Levitt, he gave the ball away 3 times in a minute, and I checked my watch to do it. He was jumping out of tackles, as we all know. He's got that in his locker when he's no fancy. People were just running off him, and it won't. The 2 deep players, they can't be Levitt. It can't be. He doesn't have enough, and every single player wants to drop off and get the ball. Levitt wants the ball in space all the time. He tries to make passes. He was a great pass against Kilmarnock for the goal. I don't want to not talk about some of the things that he does. He does bring, and he does do it sometimes, but nowhere near enough to have to balance the negatives of having him there. And it'll never be enough. And we all know the best period he had in Scottish was when he was loan, and he was playing a more attacking midfield role, Dundee United. And then ever since then, he's been getting further and further back, despite relegating teams. And not everyone keeps doing it. So he was absolutely hopeless. And then you've got a right-hand side. You're playing St Mirren, Fowler. St Mirren. And you've got a right-hand side of Rory Whittaker and Jair Tavares. Where do you think the ball's going? Constantly. And I feel for them because they're both young, inexperienced, weak physically. Like, Whittaker's not ready. That's like, and this isn't good what they're doing. What's happening with Whittaker here isn't good. It's not a good thing. He's being targeted every week. He's having a really tough time. And it's not helping anyone. And he's making errors every game, as you would. But even they brought Megwa in, and Megwa was the same. He was struggling in that position now. So it was an absolutely atrocious performance. And I would just mean balls just being passed out the park, no communication. It did look like a team that had never seen each other before. And I know there was new players brought in. But my God, he's went to Dubai, so he's lost all that one where he's not had a pre-season to implement it. Well, he got given a fucking holiday to go and do it. And it's only got worse since then. It keeps on getting worse and worse and worse. And there's now nothing for you to hang your hat on apart from he's got 2 other midfielders that he's brought in. I'm assuming aren't ready, even though he told me he was only wanting players that would be ready to hit the ground running immediately. And then he's brought midfielders in, and the 2 in the midfield has been one of the most problematic positions in the team. And then none of them are able to play immediately. So they brought on Welch at half-time. I stayed for about 15 minutes because I just wanted to see. I really wanted to see. Normally I would leave at that point, but I wanted to see if there'd be a reaction, to see, is this team actually with him at all? And Welch came on, and it looked like he had much more energy and he had more bite. But again, it's really hard to judge players when it's 3-0 in a game. The game's not the same as what a game normally is.
Aye.
So like, he's got that. So he'll probably get another shout when he's able to replace Levitt. And then we're getting to get to the stage, well, that's all the issues that looked like there were. You've now pogged them, and it's still getting worse and worse and worse. You need to fuck off, mate.